Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, I'm just back from Pago, American Samoa. And we've got a War Stories episode for you where we're going to take you through pictures and videos of moving to radio stations on a tropical island. Chris Tobin's along too with some great comments. We got lots of pictures and videos coming right up.
TWiRT is brought to you by the TELUS Alliance and the new Omnia Volt audio processor. More processing power in one rack unit than others give you in 3. By BSW, broadcast supply worldwide, where the remote sale is on. Save on headsets and remote packages at bswusa.com. And by Lavo, providing seamless integration of your work processes and the uncomplicated operation of complex technology. See Lavo in your future at lavo.com/TWiRT.
Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host, and hey, I get to be at a radio station to do the show today. Usually I do it from my office at home, which is almost a radio station, but I'm at the studios of, there we go, of KZOO in Honolulu. KZOO is a friend of the family. David is the proprietor here, the owner. The station was started a long time ago, and it's a Japanese language station. So there's all kinds of Japanese notes all over the control room here, and I have no idea what they say. But they even get programming from Japan. I think it comes in via some kind of a T1 or maybe a slower speed circuit. If David pops in, we'll ask him about some of those technical details. And during the show, they warned me they're going to come in and make some switches on some routing changes on the broadcast tool switcher back there. So that'll be, hey, it's a radio show. That'll be part of the fun. So welcome into our program This Week in Radio Tech. Along with me this week is Chris Tobin, and he looks comfortable from a backyard. Hey, Chris, welcome in.
Well, hello there. Yeah, I'm enjoying a nice outdoor, comfortable blue skies, sunshine, calm, cool breeze here in the suburb of New Jersey. It's fun. So it's good stuff. It's August.
I understand you're going to be visiting a transmitter site, and so you're just in the neighborhood. And
yes. Actually, 3 stations are being added to the master antenna system at the transmitter site that I work at. And tonight's the testing. Shively will come in and do some RFI measurements, the usual stuff, balancing the hybrids of the combiner, the whole bit. So it's going to be fun.
Is there any chance that you can take pictures of that and talk about that on an upcoming episode?
I'm planning on it. I will know tonight when I meet up with the gang if there will be any issues. I doubt there will be, but I'll give it a try.
This whole, engineers like you and other engineers who deal with hybrid combiners kind of get this stuff because you've done some hands-on. You may not get all the math behind it, but you know operationally how it works. And this is still a mystery to me. I mean, I've seen them, and I kind of understand how it works, but if you sent me the parts and said hook it up, I'm not sure I could. So I'd really like to understand, where the gazintas and the gazatas are and what the adjustments are that get to be made.
It is a balancing act. I mean, I tune up duplexes for 2-way radio stuff, ham gear, and even some microwave gear, and even that can be challenging. And I understand the math well enough to be able to do it, and probably sometimes get in trouble. But it's still I wouldn't say it's a black art, but it definitely takes a little more than just, okay, this is what the textbook says, this is what I'm going to do. It's more of textbook references this, it suggests this, and then my gut says this is the better choice. I've watched guys like Shively and ERI, the 2 biggies, and Jampro and a few others. I've watched these guys tune up, huge, 100,000 watt duplexes, and it's like, okay, how did you know to do that? He goes, well, you see, about 10 years ago. And when you hear that, you're like, okay, you've been doing this for a lifetime, and you're using the gut on this particular tuning test. Okay, I'll go with that.
See, experience counts. You can read a textbook, but that may not tell you all you need to know to implement it, right?
Oh, I will tell you. I know we've mentioned this a few times. Spotting. I'm going to put together a show for it, but the recent Wi-Fi network I installed over the summer at a camp, I will tell you that we managed to take the textbook of how to link up point to points a microwave, and we did it through trees and through forest, woods, everything, you name it. According to a couple of the software applications, the applications we had access to for link budgets, determining heights and a whole bit, several of the links we put together are working very well, even through a thunderstorm. According to the software, should not work at all.
Okay.
But I sat there, I would sit there at night in the middle of the woods, looking at the sky, the stars, and think about, okay, what principles do we have here? We've got 2 microwave dishes. I've got above the tree line. How does the Fresnel zone work? And then I said, wait a minute, what if? I'm sketching on a piece of paper, and a friend of mine is looking at me. He's like, he's an RF guy. He's like, Well, technically that could work. Actually, in theory, that should work. I said, let's try it. Lo and behold, it works. It's still working to this day, and 500 megabits of data is going across a link that, according to 3 different programs, shouldn't happen.
I'd be very curious to understand that even better with pictures, of course.
Oh yeah, no, I think we had some fun playing with physics. It was good.
All right. Like I said, I'd be eager to hear about that. This show, though, is about war stories in American Samoa. We're going to get to that. We moved some studios. We made a new microwave link, and we had to move a bunch of stuff around. We sent our general manager on a wild chase up a slippery mountain. So slippery that if you get off the four-wheeler and just try to stand up, you can't. You fall right down. So it's pretty amazing. That's coming up. Our show brought to you in part by my friends at the TELUS Alliance and Omnia and the brand new Omnia Volt audio processor. Let's check it out.
More top radio stations choose Omnia than all other competing processors combined. Now meet the Omnia Volt, sharing lineage with Omnia processors like the Omnia 11, electrifying, competitive, market-leading audio in a compact one-rack unit package. With Omnia heritage built in, the Omnia Volt includes Dynamics Magic from Omnia Chief Algorithm Designer Cornelius Gould, including 6 AGC sections from start to finish, deep bass, warmth, and stereo enhancers, 5-band time-aligned limiter, the world's best presets to get you started right, and spectrally pristine final processing designed by Frank Foti. Omnia Volt users love its Quick Tweak feature. Quick Tweak distills years of processing knowledge and proven approaches into simple controls that turn you into a processing pro. Nail your signature sound in minutes using advanced presets or your own settings right from the Volt's front panel or a PC. Omnia Volt brings charisma to your station's audio. FM translators and low-power FM stand out among the crowd. AM stations maximize clarity and coverage. Digital broadcasts sound clear and musical without fatiguing artifacts. Smart design, clearly visible outside and inside. Input and output connections in analog, AES-3, Livewire, and multiplex for FM. Automatic input selection handles redundant STLs. Remote control works with today's browsers, tablets, and smartphones. Idealized patch point for external watermarking. And hardened construction to withstand lightning strikes, surges, high RF fields, and harsh conditions.
The new Omnia Volt is stunning. Everyone will know you've got an Omnia on your station.
Omnia Volt is versatile too. DSP Core firmware alters the personality of Volt to fit your changing needs. FM, AM, digital transmission, or studio processing. Volt can even be used as a standalone stereo generator. DSP cores aren't extra cost add-ons. Download the functionality you need for free. The Omnia Volt. Omnia audio processing for any station and a smart upgrade for aspiring broadcasters. Proven audio processing that'll leave your competitors in the dust.
Thanks, Omnia, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. I really appreciate it. The Omnia Volt, pretty cool. Check it out at telusalliance.com. All right, it's Chris Tobin and Kirk Harnack. I'm at KZOO in Honolulu, and Chris is getting ready to do some amazing combiner work tonight. So he is close to his site. But we're going to talk about my war story from the past week or so. And I'll set it up for you this way. We got a lot of pictures to show. So, hey, if it's a visual show, if you're listening to the show, well, I appreciate that. We'll do the best we can to describe it, but you may want to go back and get the YouTube version so you can see the pictures. So I got involved with a couple of FM radio stations that weren't even on the air yet. They were just, they weren't even construction permits. They were allotments. Back when allotments for FM stations were on the first come, first serve basis. So my business partner, Larry Fuss, and I made a trip to American Samoa back in, I want to say 1996, maybe it was late 95. But we went there to scope out some transmitter sites. We knew that these, we had to make application because they were first come, first serve. And back then, that was before the Telecom Act of 96. So one entity could not even own 2 FM stations. So Larry applied for one and I applied for another. And boy, lots happened since then. We found transmitter sites in American Samoa. And by the way, if you don't know where it is, and a lot of folks don't, I didn't know where it was. American Samoa is a territory of the United States. the citizens of American Samoa are considered U.S. nationals, and they do have a congressional representative to the U.S. Congress, but that representative is non-voting, and it's a lady now. Her name is Amata Radawagan, and then they have a elected governor and a lieutenant governor there, and they have a kind of a congressional assembly called the FONO, F-O-N-O. And not all U.S. laws apply there. They write a lot of their own laws, and a lot of their laws are based in Samoan and Polynesian tradition. So doing business there is kind of interesting. But hey, FCC laws do apply there, and so you apply. We got these first come first serve licenses and got them, construction permits. We ended up selling one of them in order to raise some funds. To continue to work on our main station. Then in the long run, we ended up getting another construction permit and then a translator, and now we just recently got a non-commercial station that is going to go into the holdings of a nonprofit organization there. Okay, and our two stations. I'm going to say two stations. That's what we kind of have, but we actually have a third one that is about ready to go on the air, and that's the nonprofit. One of our stations, we use the moniker 93 KHJ, famous Los Angeles moniker from years in the past. It's 93.1 FM. It's not AM. 93.1 FM. The call letters are KKHJ, and then our other station. By the way, it's a top 40 station. Like it's a hot AC station, hot adult contemporary. Our other station is a Samoan language station, and so we play Samoan language music, a lot of Polynesian music, and the presenters on the air mostly speak Samoan on the air. Samoan language sounds like a lot of Polynesian languages. Every single syllable ends in a vowel. So there's a lot of, fa'ale'e, mo'o, it sounds like that. I don't speak much of it. Just, let's see. Thank you is fa'afatai, and talofa is hello. Anyway, so that's our two stations there. We built our studios 18 years ago in a downtown office complex, what was probably the nicest commercial building on the island, called Pago Plaza, in the city limits of the capital city, which is Pongo. By the way, it's spelled Pago, but in Samoan it's pronounced Pongo. So we've been there 18 years and have really outgrew the space. Plus, all the commercial development on the island is in a different part of the island. It's out on what people call the flat part of the island, where the golf course is and where the airport is. That's where all most of the business development is. Whereas Pongo, it's a long and windy road along the coastline to get there. So all of our employees were having to drive really anywhere from 25 to 45 minutes each way to get to work. And they'd come into work, then they go out and sell advertising or go out in the in the community, and they had to drive all the way back out to the flat part of the island. So it's time to move. Bottom line there, time to move. And so we found some office space out on the flat part of the island. That part of the island is called Tafuna. So we contracted for the office space, and now for a little technical explanation. It's very mountainous in American Samoa, and there's a big mountain in the middle of the island, which kind of prevents much radio from crossing from east to west and west to east, at least FM radio. So from our old location in Pago Plaza, we could clearly see what was originally our main transmitter site. It's called Mount Alava, and Mount Alava is where the TV transmitters are. The United States Department of the Interior helped build a number of TV transmitters there back in the 60s to do television education for schools. And now they provide some entertainment, but there's only one on the air now. So Mount Alava was easier to access when there was a tram going up to it, but that got cut down by a wayward fighter pilot back a long time ago, killed some people, and there's no more tram. Getting to the Mount Alava site is a real ordeal on a four-wheeler, and it's really dangerous. A lot of slick, slippery roads, and if you slip off, it is 1,600 feet down from the highest points on the ridge. So it's a bit of a dangerous way. I've got some video of that from a previous trip. I'd love to show it on here someday or put it on YouTube. So anyway, we could shoot from Pago Plaza up to Mount Alava, which is our main transmitter site. But then when we got our V103 WVUV FM station, well, its best location was over on a different mountain, more near the flat part of the island, and that mountain is called Mount Olatele, which I think in Samoan literally means telephone mountain. And that's where the FAA has their repeater transmitters so they can talk to airliners around the area. That's where all the telecom is, because from that point, they can shoot microwave to the Manua Islands to the east and to the independent nation of Samoa to the west. So Telephone Mountain, Olatele, is a desirable site, and it's a paved road all the way up to it. So that's where we really want to be. Well, for years, we were hopping our signal for WVUV from the studio to Mount Alava, receiving it on a 950 megahertz STL, and then just retransmitting it on another 950 megahertz STL, point to point over to Mount Olatele. There is line of sight between those two mountains. But as I mentioned earlier, there's a big mountain in the way. It's called Matafa'o. And Matafa'o is really in the way. There's no electricity on Matafa'o. It's a rite of passage for young men. There used to be, to climb Matafa'o, and it is, oh my goodness, it's a doozy. So I mean, you are grabbing tree roots just to try to get up that mountain. It's really steep. Anyway, so with Matafa'o in the way, the ideal situation is to have your FM transmitters in two places. On Mount Olatele to hit that end of the island, and on Alava to hit the other end of the island. So we ended up getting a translator for our first station, and so 93 KHJ has the main transmitter on Alava and the translator on Olatele. But we were having to do 950 megahertz hops. So we move out to the Tafuna area, and now we've got clear line of sight to Olatele. Well, that's great. So what we ended up doing was installing a multi-channel microwave link using LiveWire, using audio over IP to shoot from the studio up to Olatele. And at Olatele, we break it off there to transmit on V103 and the translator for 93 KHJ. But we still then, we hop two signals over to Alava now on 950. So the processors, the audio processors, are all up at Mount Olatele because we're sending unprocessed linear audio up to Olatele, processing it there, transmitting it on two stations, and then sending two more over to Mount Alava as 950 megahertz, because that's just the easy way to do it there. Okay, I've described all that. Maybe you're totally confused. A map would help, but we're going to take a look at some pictures, some studio and transmitter site pictures. So let's go ahead and Suncast. Let's go ahead and start the first one there. For us. If you can, zoom in on. Yeah, there you go. So this is the new studio building. This is the rack room at the new studio building, and I got to tell you, these buildings in tropical places are almost never conducive to acoustics. We're talking tile floors and concrete walls, and sometimes concrete ceilings, or at least a really thick wall board. And so it is echoey as can possibly be there. But that's the beginnings of our rack room, and we'll look at that more of that in a minute. Over on the left-hand side, there is a Scala mini flector antenna that we are using now. We've got to get another one. Okay, let's look at the next picture there. Suncast. This is from the back of the new studio building. Now, the building you see there with the blue roof, that's a building next door. And the mountain that's kind of in the middle of the picture, you see there's a darker ridge, and then there's a lighter green mountain way in the background. That is Mount Olatele. And there is a lot of RF there, mostly microwave, but I think there's 4 non-com religious stations on there, plus our translator and our more or less full power V103. But anyway, that's the shot that we have to make. And you can see it's not bad. That ridge is almost in the way, but thank goodness it's not. Let's see what's next in the pictures here and there. Suncast. Oh, okay. There's a tighter shot of Mount Olatele, and if you're watching on video here, you can almost see the towers up there. There are some huge, enormous microwave dishes up there that belong to the telco, and that's how they get signal over to the Manua Islands and to Western Samoa. but our tower is up in there. It's short, but our tower's up there. There's cellular up there too, and there's a whole lot of wireless internet on this island. Now, the whole island got wired, or a lot of the island got wired with fiber. So we got fiber to our building from the main telco. But a lot of the people on the island get their internet via wireless technology, and it's pretty slow, but that's how they get it. Next picture. Let's take a look. What's next here? So we had to have constructed, excuse me, a mast upon which to put the IP radio. So the white double dish thing there, that is a Ubiquiti Air Fiber 5. It's full duplex, so it receives and sends at exactly the same time. And it can do up to a gigabit, but we don't need a gigabit. I'd rather have robustness of signal and than speed, because I'm sending about 10 megabits per second worth of linear audio from that up to the Mount Olatelli, and I'm also bringing back audio from Mount Olatelli back to the studio location. So a local guy fabricated that mount, bolts to the wall in 6 places altogether, and he built a ladder right onto the mount as part of the mount, and then extended the mast up higher than the ladder. So that actually is working out pretty well. By the way, the little round parabolic reflector to the left, that is a very rusted and falling apart part of a wireless ISP. I don't even know if that's in use anymore, but the feed horn fell off of that from the rust. It's a very corrosive environment there. Hard to keep anything clean. Next picture. So this is the rack room as we're moving in and bringing boxes and furniture, you can see there, from the old location. The electricity was not sorted out as we wanted it yet, so that was a challenge. We brought an electrician in the last couple of days to give us some proper plugs for a big UPS, but that was really tough. Also tough was getting the wires all through the ceiling and drop down into the new studios. We found some guys with a construction company who worked really hard at it for about 3 days and got it done. Let's see what's next, Suncast. This is laying carpet. The carpeting, knocked down the horrible acoustics by probably 40 or 50%. So we quickly carpeted the newsroom and the 2 studios. We do have a full-time news director there. And that's so that you can see the furniture just beginning to go in. That is used furniture. That's some old Arrakis furniture made by Rod Graham, and it's lasted really well. So we brought this, and it's a hand-me-down to the V103 studios. Next picture. Let's see what's next here. There's me in front of the racks starting to get populated. We had been, you see at the very, if you can see it, just barely at the very top of the rack, there is an 8-port Cisco switch that for years, actually for 4 years, has been our main live wire core switch. And it's just a little switch from Cisco. I think I bought that one for $200 off eBay. And we decided to go with some bigger switches to handle more expansion down the road. So we got a couple of the 2960G switches. Again, bought them from eBay. I think, so they're the 2 lower switches. There's a main and a backup. I labeled them such, main and backup. And I think I paid about $90 to $100 each for those. I mean, they're used and they work great. And we the support guys at Axia reprogrammed them for me. And man, we bought a couple of new X nodes. That's the next thing down, because the new X nodes have some pretty cool features that I thought I might need for the hop to the transmitter side. And over on the right, there's a temporary, we had just used a used Linksys router, but I got to bring over my MikroTik router from the old studio, and that's what's in place now. And then a new Cisco business switch. It was about a $200 switch, all gig ports, and it's a managed switch from Cisco, but it's their lighter business class stuff. All right, next picture. Let's see what's going on. Oh, there's the first day in the new studio for 93 KHJ. And of course, there's me holding the camera, but our morning man, John Raynar, and his wonderful sidekick, Sia. Sia is Samoan, and John is from the States, went to Penn State University, actually. So in this, you may notice that to John's right is what looks like a folding table. Yeah, it's a folding table. Sorry about that. Our furniture, we just couldn't get new furniture in quick enough. So it's going to be in November. And some people there in Samoa will have to unwire that studio on the folding tables and wire it into the new furniture. That's going to be a chore. But you can see a little bit of an Axia console there. It's an Axia Radius console. That's what they do their morning show on. So, Chris, you got any comments or questions about things so far? Pretty small time radio here.
It's not a question of small time. It's good radio. It's it's personal. It's cool. And if it's KHJ, do you have everybody named Charlie Tuner? No, okay.
We actually have a voiceover artist, a voice tracker guy, whose air name is Charlie Tafuna, because Tafuna is a town on the island. Yeah, and now we're in Tafuna, so Charlie Tafuna.
Nice.
And speaking of Charlie Tuna, for years, for decades, there were 2 tuna canneries in Pongo Harbor, right across from our old building. A Chicken of the Sea and a Star-Kissed tuna cannery. You talk about a smell. There is nothing quite like the smell of a tuna cannery on endless string of hot, humid days. I mean, wow. It'll just turn your stomach. It's a pleasure when a trade wind comes in and blows that smell out of the harbor. And now we're miles away. And one of the canneries closed when they forced a minimum wage. They forced U.S. style minimum wages on American Samoa. And one of the canneries said, "If you do that, we're moving," and they did. So,
wow.
All right. Well, let's see what picture might be next year then. That one, and there we go. There's just another shot of this. Now, this studio, as you can see, it's very Spartan. I mean, it's almost embarrassing. But hey, we had to move. We had to get it done. So we had, one folding table and one old desk that we just put the furniture on. I drilled a few holes, mounted the microphones. We had to just place the speakers on top there. On the left-hand side, we did have a little wooden Middle Atlantic rack, and you can see where we've got our gear mounted there, CD player, the engine for the console. And that engine for the console is pretty cool because it has an Ethernet switch built right in the back of it. So there's a few items in the studio that get Ethernet there. And it's got some I/O ports, some analog, and like for the cassette deck. And it's got the mic in it, and mic inputs and mic processing. So that's one of the first shows that is actually a pretty big room, but they do bring musical groups in from time to time. And they bring on the morning show, they bring a lot of guests in. So I don't remember where these ladies were from. I think they were with the health department. They were, gosh, what were they talking about? And they've been doing a lot of mosquito awareness. Apparently in American Samoa and a lot of places, there's junk metal lots, where people throw away their junk metal items, whether it's a car or a washer or whatever. And metal is just terrible because you get all these little pockets of rainwater. But it rains every day here. In fact, some days it rains 15 times a day. Okay. So, and that's perfect mosquito breeding grounds. So they really have an effort going on to try to get rid of or bulldoze or just not have scrap metal yards, because they're huge breeding grounds, and they're trying to educate the public about. And the mosquitoes there carry not only Zika, which we know that's bad, but also dengue fever and chikungunya. And I have a daughter that got chikungunya in Trinidad, and it's not pleasant at all. So anyway, hey, we're in a radio studio here, and you can see they're making some changes and switches here at KZOO Radio. So they're making a few. Is everything going okay? Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm not bothering you.
No, you're not bothering me at all.
That's good. It's live radio. That's good.
Yeah, it's live radio. So they're
something you're familiar with sometimes.
They're coordinating the switch of something.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Okay. So they're programming from a different studio because I turned out I was in here at an inconvenient time for them. Is that good?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes,
okay, good. Yeah, live radio. It's great. Anyway, so that's what they were talking about. They had some Army recruiters there one day. They're having a jazz festival there. In fact, let's look at the next couple of pictures. They'll probably have a picture of the guys with the jazz festival. This guy, he was in here talking about some local team won a soccer award, so he was in there to talk about that. Get our morning crew there. Next picture. Let's have a look. This is the other studio. Is this, Suncast, is this a video or a still picture? Looks like it's going to be a video. So we'll want to mute the audio on this if it ever plays. I'm not sure if it'll play or not. And this guy, this is our morning man. Shoot. Okay. Try to play something from Google Photos and it doesn't work. The fella in the green shirt was Alu. And Alu is the morning guy on V103. Here's what Alu does. I mean, this guy is a real Samoan. He will bring his ukulele into the morning show and he'll play music and sing. I mean, instead of, he'll play recorded songs too. But if he feels like singing a song, he'll just sing a song. I mean, that's great local radio. And he's got such a sweet voice. Just an awesome, awesome musician. All right, let's see what's next on the videos here. We actually might have another video next, and maybe it'll play. We'll see. Oh no, that's a still picture. Okay, so this is up at Olatelli on the mountaintop that we can see. So this is on the left hand side, the companion to the Ubiquity Air Fiber 5 system. And so we just have a piece of Cat 6 cable, outdoor rated Cat 6 cable, and a surge protector outdoor there. And the last thing I did was ground this thing to the tower. It's the best we could do at the moment. And so that's doing about 50 megabits per second back to the studio. Again, it would do a gigabit, but I need a simpler modulation scheme. See, you can set these things for like 256 QAM and a really wide bandwidth. And if you've got the clear bandwidth to do it, well, you can set it like that and get a gigabit through it. But we don't need a gigabit, and we really wanted the assurance of that you get with narrower bandwidth, which gives you a much lower signal level required for absolutely full quieting. So I've got the thing set up for 16 QAM, MIMO, multiple in, multiple out, and 10 megahertz of bandwidth. So the signal is really strong. We're within 3 or 4 dB of the absolute ideal max signal on all the chains going back and forth. So we hope it's going to be really, really reliable. So far it has been. Let's go back to that picture real quick. And you see there's some panel antennas there and some sector antennas for wireless ISP on the tower there. There's an FM bay that I think that FM bay is one of our partners doing a religious station there. Then, of course, on the right-hand side, you see a Scala mini flector that's shooting, that's combined. There's two 950s combined into that, shooting past Matafao and over to Mount Alava, where which used to be our main transmitter site, but now it's like at the tail end of things. There's a couple of really corroded up TV antennas there, those panel antennas. That's for a low power TV that is currently off the air, but they're trying to get the transmitter fixed. So that's Mount Alava. Let's take a look at the next picture, and then we're gonna break for a spot pretty soon. Another picture of the morning crew. The lady there is our news director, Monica Miller. She is originally from Western Samoa. And Monica, I got to tell you, she has uncovered a whole lot of corruption on that island. She's been threatened with deportation by officials who didn't like what she was saying. But I got to tell you, she is a straight shooter. And it's amazing and wonderful to have that kind of local news that's really investigative. She goes out and finds the stories and reports on corruption. And I'll give you a hypothetical that actually may not be so hypothetical. If we had an employee of the radio station who, let's say, was put in jail for drunk driving, she's going to report on that. You're going to hear about that on the radio because she reports on any. I mean, drunk driving is not terribly common there, but anytime somebody gets put in jail there, she's going to report on it, even if it's a member of the family. So she's tough as nails. All right. Hey, let's take a quick break right now. And coming up, I've got some a video tour, if we can make that play, a video tour of some of the tech stuff there at the station. So we'll get to that shortly. Chris Tobin is along, and he hadn't gotten much of a word in edgewise. I know he'll come up with some more questions and comments. Our show, This Week in Radio Tech, is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Supply Worldwide. And it not much time left. It's near the end of their remote sale at BSW. Their website is bswusa.com. And it's with fall football season and all the sports seasons coming up. And, the fall is a time when not only do you sell a lot of sports broadcasts, but other remote packages too, to car dealers, back to school sales, clothing stores, maybe different clubs and organizations are having fall activities and you want to do live broadcast from there. Now's the time to upgrade or acquire, maybe for the first time, some good remote broadcast equipment. And that's why BSW, Broadcast Supply Worldwide, is having a sale on this. Right now, you can pre-order an amazing product from Comrex. It's the Comrex Access NX. This is the new version of the Comrex Access, which has served hundreds, if not thousands, of stations really well, doing live outside remote broadcast. And if you pre-order now from BSW, they'll include for free an Audio-Technica BPHS-1 headset. That's the one that we use on this show when we're out on remote ourselves and have a bunch of people. So that's a new product. You can pre-order that right now. Also, if you want to do video for radio, or you want to be on the cable system or YouTube Live or Facebook Live with your sports broadcasts, or you just want to add some visual component to your broadcasting, the new HDV mixer exclusively at BSW is available. They have a lot of different packages to handle just the kind of television video broadcasting that you want to do along with your radio. So call for your best price at BSW. We'll give their phone number here in just a second. A terrific selection of headsets, the popular ones that broadcasters use on camera and off camera. Shure's, for example, Shure's BRH50M headset combines lightweight comfort and superb audio quality. You know it is if it's from Shure. It's a high-performance microphone with a very focused cardioid polar pattern, clear natural voice reproduction, while at the same time having great off-axis rejection and noise rejection. It's only $399, and believe me, for that headset, that's a good price. Other items are on sale as well. Lots of wireless microphones are on sale. Audio editing from Wheatstone's acclaimed Vox Pro 7 lets you easily record, edit, and air clips, especially phone clips. And other remote packages are on sale as well. So you go to the website, bswusa.com. Remember one cool thing about BSW? I've told you about it before. Their warehouse is right next to an airport, a big airport where UPS is. It's in Columbus, Ohio. And if you order in almost anything from BSW, is going to be in stock in that warehouse. And if it's in stock and it's in that warehouse, then you can order it as late as 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you need it the next day, you can probably have it the next day. They're going to take it. They're going to haul it right over to the airport, hand it to UPS, and UPS will bring it to you on whatever schedule that you specified. So check them out. Broadcast Supply Worldwide at bswusa.com. Thanks a lot, BSW, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All righty, continuing on. Chris Tobin, I think we've got maybe a little bit of video here. Let's have Suncast show us what's next in the picture potpourri. Here's a video. Okay, good. We don't have to hear this. But I just wanted you to see a little bit of what was going on in the control room. These guys are talking about the Jazz Festival. So I believe both of them are jazz musicians. And I had no idea that American Samoa, had a jazz festival. So there's Monica and John talking about this jazz festival and getting these. There's Monica looking at me with the camera. Man, there's just a lot of arts and stuff going on that tiny Pacific island of American Samoa. But someday we're going to upgrade to the mic arms that are out of the way, so we have better camera angles. There's this close shot of the Radius console. I got to tell you, in moving these stations, Chris, I did a lot of wiring, right? And the wiring that was LiveWire, audio over IP, RJ45 connectors, and Cat5 and Cat6 cable. That was the easy part by far. That stuff just click, 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 and I, some typing on a computer, and bam, things were working. But stuff like headphone jacks, oh man, I hate that. Just soldering and XLRs, and we actually did have some Studio Hub gear, which was a little bit helpful on the headphone jacks. But Chris, when you're engineering, do you look forward to AOIP and don't look forward to standard wiring anymore?
Well, I look for the AOIP because of the flexibility and the creativity I can do with it. And speaking of the headphone stuff, I was working on a project. We were using headphone-enabled Dante connections. So the headphone jacks were little Dante boxes. It was pretty cool. I thought that was fun. So I didn't even have to wire up or do anything crazy.
That's a great idea.
Nice thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy. I mean, I don't mind making cables or running stuff. But what I find with the AOIP, you really can come up with some wild combinations of things and have fun. And if you're moving studios, and I helped a friend many months ago move a small studio, and it was just literally plug and play. I'll use that phrase. It was plug and play. We unplugged the stuff in one building, went across town, plugged everything back in, and boop, off to the races. It was great.
Well, that's how it was with this stuff, because obviously our consoles, the newsroom and the two control rooms, were all programmed and working. And when we set the furniture down, and the first thing I did was set the consoles in and their mixing engines, and literally within literally a few minutes of setting and I had already pre-wired one Cat6 cable for LiveWire from the back room to each of these rooms that would have a console. That got pre-wired. And after that, it was just snap, 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 plug it in, plug them into the core switch in the back room, which I had pre-configured. And we were on, except for now I had to do all the analog wiring. And that didn't transfer so well from the old studio to the new because stuff was in different places. So I had to make up a lot of new analog wiring. And I don't have the patience you do.
So the analog wiring you're speaking of is like headphones and things of that sort, mic cables?
Yeah, headphones, microphones, and remote starts for stuff. And then you've got a cassette. They still do some cassettes and the CD player. And I've got I found a few cables that I could kind of sort of make work, but I had to make a few cables. And I don't know when it seems like you get a lot when you plug an AOIP cable into a switch, you have just wired a lot of stuff right there. And
you have.
Oh yeah, I just be maybe I should enjoy it, but we were under the gun to move. Real heavy. I mean, we did a lot in 8 days, a lot. I don't feel like I have an appreciation for analog wiring anymore.
Well, after you do AOIP for a while, yeah, I could see why you'd have no patience. It's a vastly different experience.
A few years ago, we had been AOIP at our station in Cleveland, Mississippi, for a couple of years, and my business partner bought a used analog console. It was a perfectly good analog console, and I was not motivated to wire it up. I mean, it involved a lot of work.
Connectors.
Molex and crimping and all that. It just everything you wired up took 30 minutes to do, and I'm developing a short AOIP attention span.
You miss the days of punch blocks underneath the console furniture to harness into your analog console, and then there's Phoenix connectors that plug into the mainframe. Oh, come on now, or the Euro connectors if it was a routing switch.
And I did wire up a number of things that had Phoenix and Euro type connectors, and I didn't mind that so much. You strip the wire, you push it in, you screw it down, and that's it. And I love what an XLR connector is. I just don't like putting them on. I'm really good at it.
You have to invest in the solderless ones. Take a few extra cents and use the ones that don't require solder.
Yeah, I've seen those, and I should think about that. You're right.
But hey, if I can get 200 of them, you'll appreciate it.
But if I can get a Studio Hub adapter, just the XLRs to an RJ, and snap, get a LAN cable the right length, snap it in the other end, done.
Oh, I've done that a lot. I keep a kit just for that for remotes.
Yeah. Hey, so let's go on with the parade of pictures and see what's next here in the next few minutes we have left. What's up next, Suncast? Well, okay, this isn't radio. While I was there, I got to go to the Weather Service office, obviously, in Pago Pago. And as I said earlier, that it's spelled like Pago Pago, but pronounced Pago Pago. This is a pretty new office built just a few years ago. Let's see what's next in the pictures here, Suncast. Probably. Oh, yeah, this is what I want to show you about the satellite dishes. So, you see, there's 3 radomes here, right? The middle one is an older one. It's been there a long time. And I never knew what was in it. I thought, why would they have a radar? Because you've seen domes like this on the top of towers for weather radar. Okay. At least the ones that the Weather Service, National Weather Service, has radars that I believe they called ASR-88 or -88D for Doppler.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, ASR-88D is the standard model of Doppler weather radar at all the bigger installations. And a lot of them, if not all of them, have this kind of dome on them, with a little lightning rod at the top and some ventilation in it. And I get that. And I thought, why are these radars on the ground? What's that going to do? Chris, what do you think is inside those domes?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I've seen pictures of these domes. I was at the weather service station here in the New York area, that out in Upton on Long Island. And I remember the guy telling me it's their radar dishes, and because Doppler is a very fine. I think it's correct. It's a narrow beam, very high powered signal that's sent out to bounce off the atmosphere and stuff. And I forget the exact angle and the way it goes, but it's pretty potent. And the radomes are for weather protection and other stuff. But it should be just a regular standard radar type thing. At least the ones I've told about.
And what you're describing is exactly what I've seen, but I've always seen them up a tower a little bit, at least a bit of a tower, at least 40 or 50 feet, and oftentimes 80 or 100 feet or so, a big, solid, substantial radar tower. And so I was really, what is inside these domes? Well, I didn't get to look inside, but the electronics tech for the Weather Service was right there. And he said, those are satellite dishes, and they're standard satellite dishes. Now they're motorized. They move. They're actually tracking dishes. And so the two rounder domes there, the first one and the third one, those have motorized tracking satellite dishes that are for this reasonably new O3B internet service. This is the constellation of mid altitude orbit satellites. Each one stays in view for, I think, roughly 8 hours from horizon to horizon, and they sell internet connectivity. And they orbit the equator, but they're not they're not stationary. They're moving all the time. They're not low Earth orbit. They're medium Earth orbit, and it's O3B provides internet to isolated islands and ships at sea. And it's really fast. The whole satellite constellation was designed for internet. And so that's what those dishes are. And the reason they have them, the internet provider in American Samoa, one of them, it's called Astica. It's the quasi-government owned one. They upgraded to O3B. They have 2 dishes, but they're not covered in radomes. They're just big old, outside. They look like astronomy dishes because they're tracking all day long. Oftentimes they'll track together, and then when when that satellite's about ready to disappear below the horizon and the new one is coming above the horizon, one of the dishes will turn around and go acquire the next satellite, and then when it gets acquired, then the other dish will turn around and track it too. That's kind of a standard installation. Well, the Weather Service said apparently was unhappy with whatever bandwidth they were getting from Astica. So they got a grant. They put in their own dishes, and those radomes are really to protect the dishes from hurricane force winds. So those radomes are really bolted down, and they're really strong. And they've had some strong winds to test them in. So they're hurricane protection for the dishes inside. Now that middle dish, if we could look at that one more time real quick. Some radio stations used to do this. The middle dome is another satellite dish, and it's what they call their MWIN dish, and that's the Emergency Managers Weather Information Network. I think that's what MWIN. Have you ever had an MWIN dish installation, Chris?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. Something to that effect, but I have not had one. No.
it was more popular for hobbyists to construct a dish, and it's not C-band; it's something else. It's like 1 point something gigahertz, and homebrew people could put one at home and receive constant textual weather forecasts and from the National Weather Service. And I know that one of the weather things that we use at our stations collects MWIN data, but now it's on the internet, and it's fairly slow speed. I mean, it's not much bandwidth, but it used to be all by satellite. So anyway, that has the MWIN dish in it. By the way, the garage door to the left of this picture, behind that door is where they blow up the weather balloons. So let's take a look at the next picture and see if I put a weather balloon picture there. Did I? I forget. Let's see.
You did not.
Okay. All right, Suncast, just go to the next picture. I got to release a weather balloon, but maybe I don't have a picture of that, or maybe it's later. Okay, here's a video. Let's see if we have any if we have audio, let's crank it up if we have audio. If it'll play. If it won't, we'll just skip and go on to the next thing. And it should start counting up in the bottom of the frame. Mm-hmm. Okay. Come on in. This is the rack room. And we're still wiring it, so it's still a little bit messy, but in our rack room here, we have our automation systems down here. Battery backup. This is our streaming computer. Yeah, I know it's old and bad shape, but you know what? It runs. It's running the ZipStream software from Telos. Here we also have some nodes from Axia, some tuners here. We have a main and a backup core switch for the Axia system here. Here's all our EAS interface. We are the PEP station for American Samoa and also the LP1. We have each of two stations are those things. Here's what's really cool though. Outside we have this IP radio, and it's shooting live wire signals up to Mount Olatelli, and that's Mount Olatelli is like our main transmitter site. We receive those live wire streams there. All our audio processing is on Mount Olatelli, and from Mount Olatelli we broadcast one of our stations, actually two, come to think of it, and then we shoot two more signals across the island by the standard 950 megahertz STLs over to Mount Alava, where we have two more transmitters over there. So that's a quick look at South Seas Broadcasting, 93 KHJ, WVUV V103, and our new station KKBT, which is just about to go on the air. I'm Kirk Harnack in American Samoa.
Okay.
All right.
It should start counting up in the bottom of the frame.
Oh, we can stop that. I think we have just one more picture to show, and then we're gonna talk a bit and close out the show. The one more picture is just the telco board in the back of the rack room. There we go. And I want to point out some of the interesting things here. Now, I know the wiring on the right is yucky. We have to still get a wire bridge to put. That's actually almost all the wire there on the right is phone extensions, and we still have an old phone system there. We're going to go VoIP eventually and just plug it into the business network. But for now, we have an old NEC phone system. But look at these four flat boxes on the wall to the left, the gray boxes, and each one of them has a battery backup unit underneath it. So from Astica, that's the quasi-government phone company, we ordered 7 phone lines. That's what we had at the old place. We ordered them, moved over to this place. And because POTS is what they can easily supply, and we have a phone system that requires POTS. So each of these little flat boxes is called a fiber ONT. Chris, do you know what ONT stands for? Oscar November Tango? I don't.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. It's optical network termination, probably something like that.
Maybe that's it. Optical network.
I'm trying to remember. There's so many different acronyms in the phone world, in the telecom world.
That makes complete sense. So that was a new word for me. So most times you get internet, it terminates with their modem of some kind. So this is an So the optical fiber, and I mentioned earlier in the show, a good part of the island is now wired with fiber. I'm sure it was a government grant that got that done, but anyway, it's done. And so we get but they couldn't. They didn't have the equipment to give us 7 phone lines on one piece of fiber, even though there's just bukus of bandwidth in the fiber, right? So they had to bring in 4 fibers. One of them gives us internet and 2 phone lines, and then the others each give us 2 more phone lines.
Wow. So I guess the central office is probably like a hybrid of old and new. So they don't have everything where they want. So it was either a choice of
I think it's more likely
one fiber or multiplexing without.
Yeah, but I actually think it's more likely that they don't have the customer side equipment that would give you 8 phone lines or 7 phone lines. I think what they have on island is what most people want in their homes, which is fiber internet and 1 or 2 phone lines. Just like your cable modem, now that when they sell the triple play, right? So you get TV, internet, and phone line, and the internet and phone line comes out of one cable modem. And that's so these things are just like a fiber version of the cable modem you get from Comcast or whomever.
I guess the cost of having a multi-port single box is probably greater than just handing out single strands.
Yeah, because I think they have a whole boatload, literally a boatload of those ONTs. So anyway,
yeah.
When
it comes to fiber stuff, when that telecom, it gets real costly when you start putting everything in one box.
So I was also impressed, though, that each one of those had come. Standard installation comes with a good sized battery backup. I would imagine that the thing can't take much electricity, so it probably lasts for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, probably lasts long enough to let the other end know there's a problem at the local side and get them prepared for alarms and stuff. But those things don't last very long. After a while, they just stop charging.
So anyway, that's kind of our tour. We've taken about our whole hour. Chris, we're going to kind of wrap up and have some discussion and tip of the week afterwards. I'll probably think of a tip of the week too after all this. I don't do so much wiring anymore, so I really jumped in with both feet for 8 days and was doing a lot of cable cutting and such like that. So we'll get into that in a minute. Hey, our show this week in Radio Tech. War story show, and I'm sorry, folks, it's been all about me and my war story this week. Brought to you in part by my friends at Lavo, LAWO.com/TWiRT. Lavo, as you know, is a company that, they're very well known for these great big audio consoles. I mean, $250,000 to $1 million. I mean, to $500,000 audio consoles. Big things from big venues like the Olympics and the World Cup races and the BBC and Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and NPR. So these organizations are using a lot of Lavo equipment, Lavo routing equipment, audio over IP routing or TDM routing, using the Ravenna AOIP standard. And but the folks at Lavo realized that radio stations don't need a $250,000 console. They need a small console that handles the needs of a radio station. And so that is what they're offering in a big line of their consoles. First of all, there's the new Ruby console. And we've talked about some of these consoles before, like the Crystal Clear. We even had Bill Bennett and Mike Dosh on from Lavo to talk about virtual radio consoles where you're using a touchscreen to get everything done. The new Ruby console is pretty amazing too, though, because it's a really cool efficient combination of tactile control. In other words, you got a real console in front of you with real faders, real buttons, but there's some cool things, extra stuff you can do and set up on a touchscreen in front of you. Especially their auto mix feature, that's really cool, and the automatic level setting. So let's say you're running a sports talk station, you're bringing guests in, coaches in, assistant coaches are coming in, maybe some star players, linebackers, whatever, pitchers, and they're coming in the studio. Everybody's got a different voice, and not many people are radio people, so they're all over the microphones. Well, the auto mix and the auto level set that's built into Lavo consoles is really amazing. Set those levels automatically while somebody's talking, and it's setting the level going into the preamp, so you're not going to overdrive or underdrive the mic preamp. So you've got great quality and just the right audio level range there. Then the auto mix, it's really intelligent. They've put an enormous amount of work into the algorithms that lets you, hey, just hands off the console and let the people talk. And if they're not talking, dims them down a little bit, lets the person who's talking, brings them up. And they can even put in an override feature where if the main host talks, then it can duck everybody down just a bit. So the auto mix can really make the job easier for the board op. Maybe the board op is the host, so you get time to think about the content of the show and what's coming next, and not have to worry about the actual second by second, moment by moment mix. Just another advantage of the Lavo audio console line. Then there's the virtual radio. There's the Relay product. from Lavo you want to check out, because that's where you get a number of different functions: automation, console mixing, phones, codecs, all in this running on the same platform. So that becomes really convenient to use that way. If you just need to do some routing, well, they've got that too. Routing systems using Ravenna, audio over IP, AES67 compatibility there. So that's just a great way to get your facility interconnected for good routing and ease of operation. One thing about Lavo is they take a lot of complicated stuff under the hood and they make it easy to use for the operators, so that you get that perfect mix. You get just smooth operation using their technologies. They also have this software package that lets you create custom routing and controls, very visual. It's called VisTool, and lets you be very creative as an engineer to help your talent get the station running with all kinds of visual indicators and beautiful buttons and knobs and volume controls and metering, routing visualizations. It's all there in VisTool. Check them out if you would. Go to lavo.com. Now that's spelled LAWO.com. And then if you would, put the /TWiRT, TWiRT, on the end of that when you go to their website. It'll take you right to their radio page. That's what you're interested in. And it'll give us a little credit too, that they'll know that they came there because we asked you to. Lavo.com/TWiRT. All right, Chris Tobin, let's round the fourth turn here and bring this baby across the finish line. I did a lot of talking here, Chris, and I'm eager to hear any of your thoughts or questions on something that didn't seem quite right, or something you thought, hey, that was pretty smart, Kirk. What you got to say about I think what we saw?
Oh, no, I thought what I saw was great. I know you commented on the sparse-looking studios and the lack of maybe professional furniture, but one thing I've come to learn over the years is it's not a question of the physical plant as much as those who work in it and how well the physical plant delivers the required support for the content they're creating, or the shows they're doing, or the interviews they have. So it looks for me that setup you have is quite functional. The size of the studio is pleasant, is a pleasant feel. The coloring, the height, the ceilings, everything about it. So, hosting live events in that room look good. The wiring, that's fine. The only question I do have is that you mentioned corrosive environment outside near I think it was the tower site. What type? I guess just salt air, or is it a combination of other things?
Yeah, it's salt air. In fact, as I was at the airport checking out to leave, I met a gentleman who works for the FAA. He's an electronics technician. He handles projects. He works out of the Honolulu office. And I said, hey, what are you doing down here? He said, well, we've got to replace the ILS. Now, that's about a 40-foot pole next to the runway that has 3 antennas on it, typically either 2 or 3. In Samoa, it's 3, and this gives the plane, the vertical guidance to come down the glide slope. And I said, why are you replacing it? He said, it's corroded. The tower is held together by rust. I said, really? How long has it been there? About 10 years. So stuff just corrodes really fast. In one of the pictures, you saw that little parabolic dish. It's a Ubiquity parabolic dish. Like the Wi-Fi panel you have behind you there? Yeah. Of course, you take one of those and put it in the focal point of one of these offset feed parabolic dishes, and you collect more signal that way. Sure. And they use a lot of those on the island of just, focus the feed a bit more for point to point, or even point to multipoint at the subscriber's home. And those things just rust in a matter of months, and they fall apart in a matter of 2 or 3 years. So it's a really corrosive. Air conditioners don't last long there. And so I had to do some grounding, and everything I did metal-wise, a lug under a screw, that kind of thing. We went, after we were sure we got a really good connection, we went back over it and just sprayed it with zinc paint, hoping, I hope that's the right thing to do, hoping that would make it last longer. At least it'll hide the rust.
I've heard that. I've heard that story, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. I was just curious. Okay. No, otherwise, I think it's great. It looks great. It's a great setup.
And not only is it corrosive, there's this black, looks like mold that forms on lots of stuff. So Mount Olatelli is up in the clouds. I got to fly my drone one day around Olatelli, but the clouds were coming in. And the other days I was up there, I couldn't fly the drone. We were in a fog, 1,600 feet up in a fog. And so that wetness there all the time is just keeping everything wet. So it's wet and humid and salty.
Yeah. No, I've done outside broadcasts on a couple of islands in the Caribbean, and that air quality, that salt, and you're right. It's it can be a challenge.
Brass seems to hold up pretty well, but steel, ooh, yeah.
Brass can get expensive.
Yes, it can, and stainless, of course, does fine too. And more stuff is zinc coated, but boy, if it's not really well done, it's going to rust and in a few years just fall apart. That's what happens to the cars there as well. But thanks for asking, and I'll see how some of our other stuff lasts over the next couple of years. All right, Chris, did you happen to have any kind of tip of the week? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, sure. Interestingly enough, I recently working on a project, working with a group of folks, and their entire communications platform, so to speak, document communications, that is, was based on Google Docs, which is totally fine. But that means that they have to have internet connection and keep things connected in that fashion in order to talk across the different groups. And one day the internet service went out unexpectedly, and suddenly they found their entire facility crippled. They're like, wow, we don't have any way of really doing stuff. So I looked at that. I'm like, wow, that's interesting how they totally relied on that one internet connection for everything they do and took it for granted. And when it was gone, it was realization of, wow, we can't function. So I'm thinking, as broadcast engineers, and we do work at sites that sometimes internet service can be spotty or sparse on a regular basis. I'm thinking something to consider when you're doing things. I think we've talked about this before. You have your phone, which can be a very nice document reader holder. If you do use Google Docs for many things, which makes total sense, try and put together a system or workflow that gives you static documents on your devices, so that if you're in a situation, whether it be the studio, when there's suddenly power outage and your fiber box battery no longer works, so your internet service is dead, you have some way of reaching the documents you may need for various facilities, material information. And the same is true for the transmitter site. I keep all the PDFs on here as well as on a computer, which I make sure keeps updating. So whenever I update something with the same file name, just overwrite the one you have here on the phone, and now you got it current, up to date. And if you at least lose connectivity to the outside world, so to speak, you still have the last known as document that you need. I know it sounds crazy, but I have, in the last 3 months now, worked on several projects, weekend projects, where people have run into, I can't get what I need. Well, why not? I don't know. I don't have any service. Is there any Wi-Fi here? I was like, I just need the pinout diagram that we worked on. Yeah, it's on my email folder, notes position. I'm like, oh, great. Not locally on your phone? All right. So we lost time. We had to go to a place to get internet connection, because we're building a facility that had nothing at the moment. I'm a little surprised that you're still you or your other engineer friends are running into places that you have poor telephone connectivity. I've been on T-Mobile for years. Right. Well, here's what happens. It's not that it's poor quality. There are some facilities, here in the New York City area especially, cell service is difficult when you're on top of buildings, because most cell service is below the buildings. So
of course,
you're running into areas where, yes, there is service. It's just that you're in spots that it's not provided because there's no customers. So remember, this is what I try to remind people: when cell service is available, it's because the cell company, the carrier, has the access to customers. And there are places where, well, you know what? Those 6 customers on top of a hill, just not worth our trouble. So if the cell site doesn't have full bandwidth, they're not really worried. And I can tell you, I have been at transmitter sites just outside of the urban areas of, say, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and you're like, wow, this is a great area. Why is my cell service so poor? Make a few calls, and I'm like, oh, I see. Yes, it's you, the tower, and acres of grasslands. So, that one connection to the one connection to the cell site, they got bandwidth, probably 10 megabits, whatever, and serves 30 people. That's it.
This I'll just add to that, where you do have service, where you do, and I went with T-Mobile back when I probably shouldn't have, because a lot of places didn't have service. But just sitting here at Kazoo in Honolulu, I got 15 megs down and 10 megs up and 17 milliseconds ping time. If I was at any transmitter site and needed a document, that's of course, maybe I don't have the cell service there, but that's great. And come to think of it, at all of my transmitter sites that I take care of in the States, we got good speed there, even on T-Mobile, where they've been expanding. So I guess what I'm getting at is, a lot of times I will turn this into a hotspot, and then I can use my laptop pretty reliably. places like that, and even make video calls. And I just think it's getting better. But you're right. There's still places where it's not.
Oh yeah. No, I travel with my Verizon Wi-Fi, and when I am in a situation where I need to build a hotspot because of whatever we're doing, it works. But I can tell you, I've been on projects where it's been spotty, which is expected. Where I've been, some of these places I've been, I can tell you there's a good reason for it to be spotty.
Yeah.
But I still think it's important to have a static document folder somehow for your important information. Phone carrier stuff, T1 data circuits, IP stuff, everything like that. Even your IP address charts and things.
Yeah, keep that on your phone as a document that's on your phone.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Chris, we got to go, man. Thanks a lot for accommodating an hour worth of my show and tell. I appreciate it. And,
well, I'll have my turn of show and tell coming up.
I will. Yeah, look forward to this combiner project. I'm so interested in just learning all I can about that. Hey, I want to thank our sponsors who have been Omnia, the Omnia Volt. Also, Broadcast Supply worldwide at bswusa.com, where it's their summer remote sale almost over. Go just end of the month and it's done. So go look at the stuff now. Get what you need. Get it ordered. And Lavo at lavo.com/TWiRT. Thanks to Suncast for switching today's show. Really appreciate it. To Andrew Zarian, the founder of the GFQ Network. And next week we'll be back. I'm going to be in Anaheim, California next Thursday at the Podcast Movement Convention. And I'm not sure how we're going to get the show done, but hey, it's a bunch of podcasters sucking up a bunch of bandwidth, so we're going to do the best we can. Maybe I'll go visit a radio station somewhere around Anaheim, like we did here today. Thanks also to KZOO Radio in Honolulu, AM 850, where they I'm sorry, AM 1210. I don't know why I thought 850. AM 1210, Japanese radio, and I'm going to learn some Japanese before I walk out of here. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.